Hello and welcome to the first episode of this solo chess series in which you can guess what move the player makes. So I'll begin with the first unofficial world chess champion, Paul Morphy. And you can see if you can guess Paul Morphy's moves. A great way to improve your chess is going over master games, but you'll get more benefit out of it if you try and figure out the moves on your own instead of just playing through the game and just superficially looking at the moves and not trying to figure much out. You can get much more benefit and improve your chess if you try and figure out the moves as you go over the game. So my goal is to pick one game by each world champion as I do this series. So we'll start with Morphy here. Paul Morphy, the first unofficial world champion. And this game took place in 1859. So Morphy had the white pieces. And I'll just go through the game without much commentary so you can just see how the game played and guess your moves. And then if you really want to learn more about the game, stick around after I complete the game and I'll run it through the analysis and you can see what accuracy rating Morphy had, how many good moves he had, and so on. All right, let's begin here. Enough of an introduction there. Okay, so what you should try and do is guess each move for Paul Morphy. You can pause at any time. And also, if you really want to, you can try and guess what move Black makes. So I'll just go through the moves here with no evaluation or anything, and we'll do that afterwards. All right, here we go. Paul Morphy's first move. Okay, e4. So now, what do you think his opponent will do? e5. And now, how does Morphy respond? And just remember, at any time, if you need to pause to think, what does Morphy's opponent do next? d5. And now Morphy. All right, I'll continue on without talking so you can do the rest of this game, and then afterwards we'll review it and see what we can learn. And just remember, pause at any time if you need to think longer. And maybe it'll be boring if I don't talk at all. So let's see. Morphy grabs a big pawn center here to the side. How does his opponent respond? With check. And what does Morphy do? Attacking the bishop. Capture with check. Morphy responds by capturing and developing his knight. The opponent attacks Morphy's knight on b5. And so what does Morphy do? Retreats, of course. And now this pawn was under attack, so his opponent protects it. Castling by Morphy to the queen side. And Black develops the knight, getting ready to castle. What does Morphy do next? Lining up on the queen and the king. Black castles to safety. And now what does Morphy do? Tries to break down this pawn center. And he has many pieces piling up on this pawn. And black ignores that because he can't capture where Morphy would have taken his queen. So black counterattacks on the queen side. And how does Morphy respond? Morphy ignores that, breaking open black's pawn center here, lining up on this queen. Black captures. And what does Morphy do next? Capture. And now black ignores the tension between the two knights and attacks on the queen side. How does Morphy respond now? Recapture of the pawn. And now black moves the king over to the corner because there was a threat of pushing this pawn, attacking the queen, and checking the king. So what does Morphy do next? Developing the bishop and lining up on the king's side and also fortifying this knight. Black tries to develop the bishop, and so now what action does Morphy take? Capture. Recapture with the queen. And now, how does Morphy continue? Developing the other bishop to the open file and attacking the queen. The queen retreats, and now what does Morphy do? A capture with check, and black recaptures, of course. And now what does Morphy do here? All right, let's see how Morphy continues. Queen to b4. So a double exclamation, brilliant move by Morphy. So congratulations to you if you guessed that move. Why is this such a brilliant move? Well, it ends the game here because the queen is under attack and the bishop is under attack, and the rook is threatening a back rank mate. If this queen moves here to protect the bishop, well, then the queen can go ahead and capture that bishop anyway. And if the queen recaptures, then the rook would move up here and there'd be a back rank mate. All right, so let's take a look at what happened in this game. Let's see. This game took place in 1859, so Morphy was the unofficial world chess champion. And as I do these solo chess videos, I'd like to move up through all the world champions with at least one game by each world champion, depending on what success this video series has, if people are interested in watching. All right, so game review here. The game ended after 22 moves. Paul Morphy played a 2850 level game versus his opponent at 2150. And it says white really outplayed black in that one. White played better than black in the opening, but it was sloppy. And white overpowered black in the middle game. So you'll see that a lot in older chess games where the past masters, they didn't know all the best opening moves like generally all of them do today. They know most of the best opening moves, and they're always working on tricky openings. All right, so in the game, Morphy still played a 96.3 opening percentage accuracy rate versus his opponent's 79.3, but the middle game was 93.9 versus 78.2. Okay, so let's do a little analysis here and see. One other thing, Morphy played at 94.8% accuracy versus his opponent's 79.8. And of course, Morphy had that one brilliant move. No inaccuracies, no mistakes, misses, or blunders. And his opponent had 4 inaccuracies. All right, so a little bit of analysis here from the beginning. Let's see. So let me turn on the evaluation, the lines, and let's see. Okay, so here we go. The game began with e4, e5, common opening, especially back in the 1800s. You didn't see as many crazy openings as you do today. Knight f3, Morphy just develops, attacking the unprotected e-pawn. And this is an unusual response here. So d5 being played, which it looks like is the elephant gambit. And, you probably don't see this much in modern day master play. So let's see how Morphy continued here. He played, let's see, e takes d5, which is the second most common move. So he captured. Now the computer's saying that's the best move. And the response was e4. Computer gives that the best move, pushing forward, attacking the knight. It looks like the best move now is queen to e2, which Morphy does play, pinning this pawn so the knight can't be captured. And now queen to e7 is played, which is the third best move. So that is interesting. The queen didn't capture the pawn because that would allow Morphy to develop his knight and attack the queen. So the computer gives knight to f6 as the best move, which protects this pawn. Bishop to e7 is second best, but we have queen to e7 being played here, which does block in the dark squared bishop, so that could be a problem, but it protects this pawn so the queen doesn't capture with a check here. All right, so the knight is developed forward, which is under attack now that this pawn is no longer pinned. The knight has to move and it jumps into the center. So the best move there, let's make sure. Yes, the computer says that is definitely the best move. And now, what do we have next? Knight to f6 or even a6 to prevent that knight from jumping up here to b5 in the future. So the queen to e5 move is an inaccuracy. The computer did not like that move. Instead, what does it want here? Well, now it's showing knight to d7. So just developing the other pieces instead of moving that queen up to the center. So now we have the knight that was under attack jumping up here, threatening a fork, capture of this pawn, and a fork of the king and the rook. So the best response now, well, I take that back. The queen is still protecting this pawn. So there's a lot going on here, but the queen is protecting that pawn at the moment. And it looks like a6 is the best move, but that was not played. Black develops here, which is interesting. I guess to further bolster this c-pawn and free up the queen to attack this pawn here on d5. So now we have a pawn push, And what does the computer say about that? Let's see. All right, that's the second best move, but it prefers developing the other knight here to c3. So we have this move attacking the queen, capturing en passant looks to be the best option for black here. But the queen retreats to e7. And it still says that's an excellent move. Now, developing the knight is preferred, but first Morphy brings this other pawn out to help fortify the d pawn and create a strong pawn formation here. Okay, so the game continues with b5, checking the king, which is stuck in the center for the moment. So Morphy blocks that and counterattacks. And then we have trade of the bishops. Although I think the computer preferred blocking that attack with the knight. So, instead of bringing the bishop out and trading off the bishops, it looks like this knight retreat to defend was preferred. But we see that Morphy really likes to develop his pieces. So here the opponent captures, and that allows Morphy to develop another piece. Now the king is free to castle queenside and develop the other rook. So Morphy was all about getting the pieces developed quickly and gaining tempo on the opponent by getting his pieces out faster, getting more of his pieces out. So if we look here, Morphy has two knights and a queen developed, and so far black just has his queen developed. And Morphy's ready to castle queenside if he chooses to do that. So the knight is under attack, retreating is best, and then this move is played to fortify this unprotected pawn. Well, only protected by the queen, but attacked by two knights and white's queen. So now it's really crazy. This is the only piece developed. Now Morphy is castled, bringing a rook into the game and getting his king out of the center of the board because he's getting ready to open up the center. So the knight is developed finally, and black's ready to castle. So now the rook just lines up here, the best move. Let's see. So castling is excellent, but the computer preferred c5 to try and break up these pawns in the center. So now Morphy, he moves first, breaking these pawns apart. So that's ignored, a counterattack over here, although now the computer prefers this c6 pawn push. Okay, we have a capture, recapture, and now Morphy is really opening up the board, getting ready to try and attack here. So the game continues with this move. Instead of trading off more material, because white is ahead and you don't want to trade off pieces, you want to trade off pawns if you're behind in material. Black he goes ahead and does that, trading off some pawns. Now the queen recaptures though, which helps Morphy's development even further, because now the queen is unblocking the bishop can move out, and then this other rook can get into the game. So also we have this threat here. So king to h8 is the best move, because if that is not played, we would have a d7 move being played with a discovered attack on the king here. So black has to watch out for white's queen, which is just lined up on the king here. So anytime you notice any piece lined up on the queen or the king, there could be problems. So Morphy has this rook lined up on the queen, although that rook is not protected at the moment, so the knight can't move out of the way yet. Or can it? Because there is this possibility of jumping out here, capturing with check with a discovered attack on the queen, but the queen could just recapture, moving out of the way. And then there's this, the queen lined up on the king, threatening to push this pawn, attacking the queen and checking. But I guess the queen, if that happened, you would think the queen could move over here. But let's take a look at this. Let's say, I don't know, we had this move instead. Instead of the king moving, what if there's a capture here? Well, now it's recommended to go ahead and follow through with that discovered attack. And now the queen would just move here. Queen to f7, allowing the rook to capture here. And then pawn capture. And at this point, it says Morphy is quite a bit ahead here. And now what do we have? Oh, interesting move here. Rook to e7. And then the queen, well, very interesting. The queen could capture here. Then the bishop would capture with check. And now the king is forced here. And then bishop just centralizes, attacking the rook. And the rook is kind of trapped there. It looks like blocking, giving up the knight is the best move. But then, Morphy would be way ahead. All right, let's get back to this, and just finish this out. So queen captures here on c4. Now the king, sensing danger, runs into the corner. And we have the bishop developing, aiming at the king side and getting ready to develop the other rook. So Morphy has all his pieces developed except this one rook, and his opponent still has 3 pieces that haven't developed. So chess is kind of like a race to get all your pieces developed before your opponent. And you don't want to be stuck. Let's say there are 2 warring gangs that want to fight each other. You're not going to send, 2 or 3 of your gang members into the battle, leaving, all these other ones sitting around doing nothing, and then you would just be outnumbered. So basically that's what's happening. Morphy's army is just outnumbering his opponent's army. And in chess, you don't want to do that, or you'll end up with problems, as we see in this game. So here the bishop is developed, and the computer now says it would have been better to just capture here, because now we have Morphy capturing, queen captures, and Morphy is just winning now, lining up on the queen. The queen retreats. Looks like it would have been better to go here and check, but Morphy would still be winning. Now, well, let me go back here and take a look at that. Queen to g5. Okay, because it's check, that's the only reason that works. So, let's see here. Queen to g5, check. What is the best move here? It looks like king to b1, and now knight to d7. So this would have been a better way to play here, because now the rooks are connected. Black is defending a little bit better, but white is still winning. We have queen captures, forking both of these pieces, and now capture, rook captures, and bishop. capturing a pawn, but then the queen would go ahead and capture there, and so Morphy would just be winning. All right, back to the end. So the opponent retreats to help cover the back rank, but we capture or Morphy captures anyway. And then the queen recaptures, because that was forced because of this back rank. And now queen to b4. And this is where the game ended with Morphy's brilliant move. But let's see how the game may have continued. So let's see here. After queen to b4, computer recommends this move, but then capture, which is interesting, but we see why, because now this pawn will go ahead and pick off the knight. After the queens are traded, the knight is picked off, and Morphy is just too far ahead in material here by +5 at the moment. This pawn can be captured, but he's still +4 ahead. As far as material, now the computer gives him +8.77 ahead. Now this rank is protected to prevent the rook from maybe moving in here, going after the pawns. Although if that had occurred, I guess the rook could have gone here, and then what? Maybe gotten one pawn, but you get the picture. Morphy is just ahead by this knight, and as far as pawns, he's one pawn ahead. So the king starts to centralize, and this is why Paul Morphy's opponent resigned. All right, well, leave comments or suggestions if you want me to talk more in the beginning when I'm just going through the moves. Do you want me to play through the game faster and then do this review? Feel free to leave comments, suggestions. Also, please like and subscribe to support the channel for those that haven't already. And this was the first episode in this solo chess series, and I hope to do the second one with a game by Wilhelm Steinitz, who was the actual first official world chess champion after Morphy here. So, which Morphy was the unofficial first world champion. Okay, well, thank you for watching, and have a super chess day.